Here at US LawShield, whether it's a question to our phone line or a question at one of our gun law seminars, a constant theme is interaction between law enforcement and a legally armed citizen. The first step in solving any problem, accurate diagnosis of the problem. That's what this little training video is about. The 3 types of contact you can have with law enforcement, especially if you're armed. They're voluntary contact, involuntary detention, or arrest. With that, let's take a look at all 3 of these types of contact in detail. So, I'm a legal gun owner, and I am carrying. I'm in a public place. As I'm walking along, for some reason, a police officer says he wants to have a chat. I'm a little confused about what my rights and responsibilities are. I'm not even sure what kind of contact this is. I wish I had an independent program attorney to advise me at a moment like this.
It's your lucky day. I'm Richard Hayes, independent program attorney with US LawShield. What you're involved in is what's called a voluntary contact. And it's based on the idea of consent. And a police officer, just like any other regular person, can walk up to you and ask you questions. And it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to stay and chat or just move on.
So Richard, in a voluntary contact, do I gotta tell him I got a gun?
Well, I am a lawyer. I'm not your lawyer. And the law may change depending on what state you're in.
If a police officer encounters you out in the public, let's say you're walking in a park, and the police officer asks you if you have a firearm on you, you are under an obligation in Missouri to tell the police officer whether or not you're armed. Now, remember I'm using the word firearm, not gun. Gun is a buzzword that will put police officers on edge. If a police officer asks you if you're armed, calmly state that you do have a firearm with you. Don't make any quick movements, and wait for the police officer to act. It's likely that the police officer will disarm you while the police officer engages in a conversation with you.
So Richard, bottom line on a voluntary contact.
The bottom line is you can either talk or walk during a voluntary encounter.
I'm gonna choose walking. Alrighty, this contact is very confusing. I'm a legal gun owner. I'm carrying legally in public. A police officer stops me, asks for ID, tells me stay right here and don't go near while he checks my ID and background. It sort of feels like an arrest, but I don't think it is. Of all the times I wish I had an independent program lawyer, this would be one of them.
Austin, you're in luck. This type of contact is called an involuntary detention. It seems like an arrest, but it's not an arrest. It's just temporary, and it's based on the legal standard of reasonable suspicion, or reasonable articulable suspicion. That is, could an ordinary person articulate or explain what they believe and why they believe it, and suspect. They have to suspect that you have, are, or about to commit a crime. So that's what you're being held for. It's not an arrest, it's an involuntary detention.
I know I'm not free to go, but what do we do about the gun thing? Do I have to tell him?
While I am an attorney, I'm not your attorney, and each state's law may differ on whether you have to disclose that you have a license and that you're carrying a firearm.
If you're encountered in public by a police officer who believes that you may be involved in some kind of criminal activity or that you may present a risk to others, it's likely that the police officer may employ what they call a Terry frisk. Again, a quick pat down to check you for weapons. Don't be alarmed if the police officer wishes to disarm you. In fact, it's likely that if a police officer is going to do a Terry frisk, they will disarm you. So expect to be disarmed by the police officer, at least for the duration of the conversation you're having with the police officer before you're allowed to go on your way.
I don't need a lawyer to tell me this police contact is called an arrest. Of all the parts of my day, I truly wish I had an independent program attorney. Right now is it.
Well, Austin, you're really not free to go. You're under arrest. An arrest is based on probable cause. That's when the police can articulate that you probably committed a crime. You're going to be restrained and you're going to be disarmed.
Okay, Richard, I got that I'm going to be detained part, and I got that I'm disarmed part, but I still got my gun on me. How should I handle it?
If you're being arrested and you're carrying your firearm, move at the officer's speed. You're going to be disarmed. Don't reach for your firearm. And if you don't understand any of their instructions, the only thing that should move is your mouth for clarification.
If I didn't have an independent program attorney right next to me, what would be your advice at this point in the arrest process?
While I am an attorney, I'm not your attorney. Invoke your right to have an attorney advise you prior to questioning, and invoke your right to remain silent. Actually say, I'm invoking my right to remain silent. If you don't invoke your rights, they can use your post-arrest silence against you.
When you're a responsible legal gun owner, carrying legally in public, you have far more concerns than an unarmed person does. Hopefully this video helped you identify the type of police contacts that you might encounter, gave you some ideas on how to manage that contact, and hopefully gave you some tips on how you and that officer can separate safer and more effective.